Hi everyone, this is Hillary Ellers from Lightworks Studio, and this is part 2 of our lesson, Best Friends. And this is about a spiritual journey into our relationship with animals. We ended our last lesson talking about how animals really need us when they're making a shift from the collective group soul to individual soul. And during this time period, animals actually need the protection and the help of humans. And I believe that we actually have spiritual agreements with the animals that we have, and we agree on some deep inner level to help them, and they also agree to help us. Now, especially during this time period of the changing of the age, we really get a lot of help from our animals and the animals we are around. And we were talking in our last lesson about the fact that animals give us a kind of cohesiveness so that we on one level can kind of disintegrate and not completely fall apart. So in particular, humans get help with within our relationship with animals, and animals help us connect more deeply to our physical bodies, to the level that we call the etheric, and this relates back to that chart we had on involution and evolution and the different levels. And so animals help us connect to our physical bodies, to our etheric bodies, which are just up from the physical in vibration. And that's the body that is the vital energy body and the body that relates to sensation, pain, and pleasure. And they also help us tremendously to relate to our feelings and our emotions. And you know, animals are developing in their work as animals a deeper awareness of themselves on an emotional feeling level. Sometimes I think that's why animals go through such intensity in their lives, because they're learning to build emotion and feeling. Now I'm going to shift somewhat, and we're going to start to talk about what I'm going to call your power animals. And this is a spiritual relationship you have. It relates back to your journey through the mineral kingdom, the plant kingdom, and the animal kingdom. And even if you didn't develop through those kingdoms, let's say you are a deva or you're a space being and you came into the earth at the human level, even if that's true, your physical body and your DNA connects you back to each of these younger kingdoms. So you still have a very powerful connection to the minerals, to the plants, and to the animals. And at each of those points, in each of those kingdoms, there was a high point for you or for your DNA. there was a high point for you in which you were at the most evolved point in that kingdom. And each of these high points become an archetypal energy for you. For instance, let's say let's just imagine this for purposes of our lesson today. Let's imagine that in the mineral kingdom, the high point for you was being an emerald. Just, you can choose a different stone if you want. Let's imagine that as a plant, the high point for you was being a purple orchid. Or choose a different plant if you want. And then what about the high point for you in the animal kingdom? Now, what's interesting, when we talk about these power animals, they are wild animals. So as a wild animal, not a domesticated animal, but as a wild animal, what is the high point? And let's just imagine, for the use of our lesson today, that the high point there for you was being a black panther. Now, what I want you to realize is that your mineral high point connects you back to all kinds of things that minerals were learning about form. So your mineral high point, in this case an emerald, or meditating on an emerald, will help you connect literally more to your physical body. It will help you connect to your health pattern, anything that you need to connect to regarding your body. If you're not very connected to your body, work with your mineral totem or archetype. So, when you work with your plant archetype, and in this case we said it's going to be a purple orchid, you begin to reconnect with all the lessons that you went through as a plant, or all the lessons that your DNA went through as a plant. And this is going to have to do with a certain kind of vital force. It has to do with sensation, with pain and pleasure. It has to do with sexuality. If you need to fine-tune any of those kinds of energies, it will help you to meditate on your plant archetype. And just as tuning to the mineral and the plant is helpful, tuning into your animal totem or power animal helps you touch in to your emotions, your feelings, and this is sort of like going back and taking a refresher course on your connections to yourself. Now, you know of totem poles, I imagine, and you know certain tribal people used totem poles to represent their connections to spirit. Each of the beings on the totem pole represent a power being. perhaps the spirit of a mineral, the spirit of a plant, the spirit of an animal. And usually at the top of a totem pole, there's a winged being. And that winged being represents your connection to your intellect and your spirituality. So, all of these archetypes, all of these beings that are represented on a totem pole, help you connect more deeply and powerfully with yourself. If you think about the power points on each of these levels, you can connect these to a certain dimension. You can connect these to a certain color, and you can use the colors to enter these dimensions. For instance, the mineral archetype relates to the physical or the earthen dimension, and the color is red. And if you want to get into that dimension, if you want to get into touch with your physical body more, or the physical world more, you can go through the color red. And when I say go through, meditate on red. The plant archetype relates to the etheric level. It relates to, as we were just saying, sensation and certain kind of vitality, sexuality. And the color here that connects us in is orange. And orange, you know, it's interesting. I don't know if you noticed this, but I notice that from time to time I have a new or a different favorite color. And I love all colors. I'm a color person. The room I'm in today, I'm painting. It's not, you know, I've got dabs of color here and there on the walls to see if I like the color I'm thinking of. And but color is super important to me. And generally, I have a home that has lots of deeply pigmented color. Now, for you, you may vibrate better with pale colors, or you may vibrate better with white. So notice what you're drawn to. And my sense is that I love these colors. And then, for instance, right now, one of my newer favorite colors is orange, as we're talking about orange. So I must be working with something about my etheric body, or something about the etheric level. Orange is a color that helps you connect between the connection between your physical body and all your higher bodies. And orange is all about connection. That's one of the attributes of that color. So the animal archetype relates to the astral, the lower and upper astral levels, and those are the levels of feeling and emotion. And the colors that relate there, the lower astral relates to the color yellow, and the upper astral relates to the color green. And even though yellow is a very expansive color, It is a color that moves. It moves you. In terms of the lower astral level, there is a quality in the lower astral that has to do with unprocessed feelings. So any feeling that you're not quite finished with can be represented through yellow. In particular, on the lower astral, there are colors that are sort of sickly, yellowy kind of colors that represent energies that are heavy or difficult. You know, we know so much through color. And one example of this is, think about shopping at the market and the produce. How do you know what you want? A big part is color. You look for a certain color. And then after that, you start squeezing things, which I don't think probably the store people like us to do much, but it's hard not to tell, you know, okay, look at the color, feel it. But color is just the doorway to so many things. And my spiritual teacher, Ann Manser, wrote 66 lessons on color and consciousness, and that was some of the first things I studied about. So if yellow is sort of the lower astral, and that relates to unprocessed feelings, what about the upper astral? And that would be just emotion and feelings that are just sort of moving. They're not stagnant, they're not blocked. You know, when I first was learning to meditate, I had an experience in which I kept seeing faces, and they were almost deformed. They were, if not quite totally deformed, they were misshapen. They were out of balance. And it was very disturbing to me when I would go into meditation and these faces would begin to appear, and they were very unpleasant faces. And I would stop meditating. You know, I'd just move out of the meditation. It took me quite a while to realize what I was seeing. I was seeing parts of myself that I either didn't like or did not have a positive relationship with. And I think that ties in with that lower astral level that I must have been in meditating, kind of moving through that dimension. And after a while, I stopped seeing that. It didn't continue. It doesn't happen now to me when I meditate. But, you know, in meditating, we have lots of things we encounter, and they may be confusing to us, but try to think of them as you are meeting some part of yourself. And usually in your meditation, you will meet many different parts of yourself, and especially when you're learning to meditate, I feel that you kind of go through each of these dimensions, and once you are more accustomed to meditating, you probably still go through them, but you go through them faster, or you go through them in a way that isn't difficult, And you will just find yourself meditate, and you begin to find yourself immediately at another level, and you won't necessarily be aware of all the steps you were taking to get there. Green is another level of emotion, and I think it's funny because green is the color of motivation, and green is the color of money. And money is a great motivator, and for many people it's the prime motivator. Now, as we move on up, the mental levels are blue for the concrete mental level, and then indigo for the higher abstract mental level. Above that, we begin to hit violet. And violet is a color that relates to your spirituality. Above violet, there is silver. And it is said that silver is, for most humans, the ceiling level of consciousness, way up there, up at the top. Although there is white light and there is clear light, even above silver. And when you work with white light, you're working with a very high frequency. And we're going to have a lesson in time about light. And because I work with light a great deal, the name of my business, Light Works. And I think it relates to my affinity for color, my working with light. Down at the lower end, we were talking about red, and red is said to be the basement level of consciousness. It's the physical dimension. But there's a color that relates to something below red, and it is the color russet. And russet is kind of, it's sort of a brown red. And it actually is said to be, russet is said to be the doorway to the nature kingdoms. So if you want to touch in, to the nature kingdoms, use that brownish red of russet. Let's change our topic now that we're focusing on, and let's talk about a part of you that is in the form of an animal. And this is one of the very highest parts of you. It relates to the color violet, which is your spiritual level. And this part of you is called, in the Shusta, which I studied, the Shusta teachings, this part of you is called the phantom. And the phantom takes an animal form. It's interesting because today, or not today, well, it was today, but for you it won't be the same day because we did the taping for the last lesson earlier today. But when I was using the archetypal beings for each kingdom, it actually related to so I was saying, well, let's imagine this or that or the other, and it was all the things that I connect to. my phantom is said to be, and I do feel more connected now to it than I ever have. Took me a long time to connect with my phantom, but my phantom is the Black Panther. And the phantom is like the archetypal animal. It's a wild animal. And people actually relate to each other and get along with each other much in the same way their phantoms would relate. Like all the people who have phantoms from the cat families pretty much are going to like each other, or there will be more natural harmony there. People who have the more like canine phantoms, like wolves or something of that nature, they're all going to gravitate towards each other in a more harmonious way. But the phantom has many different forms: reptiles, birds, aquatic beings like a whale or a dolphin or something. It's not just an earth or land animal. And it's interesting, years ago when I was studying with Anne, in our little group, there was a small group class we had, they would always ask me to tell them the phantom of people. And Anne thought I could tune into that. And so what I would do, this is how I did it. I would look at the person, and whatever they reminded me of, that was their phantom. And it's interesting because, like, some part of your phantom is demonstrated through you. Like, it may be how you walk, or it may be how you how you move through the world. It may be gestures or something you use. It may even be a kind of something about your body or your form. And for instance, let's just use this. If I tuned into someone and I felt their phantom was, let's say, an ostrich, well, that person would probably be, in my view, awkward or kind of, it's even hard to put some of these energies into words. We don't have language for it, period. But just imagine someone who's just kind of awkward and how they get through, how they move through the world. And you may tune in, or that may help you tune into the phantom level. The phantom helps us when we are nearing the point of graduating to a new level. The phantom comes into closer contact with us and helps us. It holds all the accumulated wisdom that you have gained through all your earth experiences. And I've never thought about this until this moment. I imagine whatever wisdom you had before you were human gets transferred also to the phantom level. If you are preparing to enter an important new project, the phantom helps you. It will, again, come in closer to you. It quickens your consciousness when you connect with it, and particularly when you begin to consciously feel it. And you know, I'm always saying this, don't be afraid to use your imagination. And last night I was working on the lesson some, and I, for the very, not the first time, but more strongly than ever before, I felt my phantom around me. I could actually feel it. And I felt like I could touch my phantom and that it was allowing me to pet it. And when I was doing that, it was a very uplifting feeling. That's one way to say that. So it draws us into connection, greater connection with our wholeness, with who we are in every way and on every level. So let's stop here with our lesson for today. Now we're going to continue this topic. So I hope you'll stay with me. Take care. Bye. So now we're going to go into our guided meditation. First, just let yourself be comfortable and do whatever you need to do. Stretch, clear your throat, scratch an itch if you need to, whatever you need to do just to feel comfortable. And know that during our entire meditation, you can do that. Whatever you need to do to stay comfortable. Even if you need to get up and relocate. It's perfectly all right to do that. I'm noticing I'm having a little something with my voice, so bear with me on this, okay? So let's begin now by just feeling what it feels like to breathe. Feel how good it feels to breathe. And know that your breath connects you to everything. Let yourself enjoy breathing. Perhaps this is the first time all day that you have slowed down enough to really feel what it feels like to be in your body, to be breathing. Every incoming breath is bringing with it a soothing wave of relaxation. Feel your muscles relaxing, lengthening, your shoulders dropping. Every outgoing breath is carrying with it all of the stress, all of the discomfort of the day out and away from you. Every outgoing breath carrying with it all of the stress of the day. Every incoming breath bringing a soothing wave of relaxation through your entire body. From this deeply relaxed place, you are in touch with many parts of yourself that often are not completely available. And now allow yourself to use your imagination and imagine you are aware of your phantom. What form does your phantom present? Will your phantom allow you to touch it? What does it feel like? Just imagine you are deeply connecting. And feel the energy of your phantom. And know that you can call upon it for help. Allow yourself to be open and see if your phantom wishes to express anything to you. Or perhaps you want to tell your phantom something. Thank your phantom for its connection with you. And know that you will build this and strengthen this on a conscious level. That you can return anytime you choose. gradually now begin to return. And find yourself returning to the safe anchor of your physical body. When you feel you are back, begin to move, begin to stretch. Rub your hands together, touch your face. Thank you. Take care.